When I was 14, my mother welcomed a dangerous relative into our home, a decision that would unravel a chilling truth. This relative was our 16-year-old cousin, Una, who had just returned from a reform school after allegedly trying to harm her infant sibling out of jealousy. Her own mother felt unsafe with her around, so my mom took her in. At the time, I thought it was an admirable act of kindness. But when Una arrived 3 days later, she wasn't what I expected. She was thin, quiet, her shoulders slumped as if she wanted to vanish. Over the next few weeks, I witnessed Una's life in our home turn into a nightmare. My family confined her to a closet-sized room, only letting her out for school and meals. She was forbidden from using kitchen ingredients because, as they put it, if she wants to act like an animal, we'll treat her like one. They spoke Korean in front of her, assuming she couldn't understand, hurling cruel insults without restraint yet. Something didn't add up. Despite her treatment, Una showed kindness to my baby brother. At night, she sang soft lullabies through the vents to soothe his cries. During quiet evenings, she made shadow puppets on the walls to make him giggle. Everything changed during my mother's birthday party. The adults were outside, music blaring, when I heard a choking sound from the living room. My legs gave out as I saw my baby brother, his face purple, eyes bulging, unable to make a sound. I tried to help, pounding his back uselessly, screaming for help that no one could hear over the party noise. Then, out of nowhere, Una appeared. She yanked him from my arms, flipped him over, and performed sharp, precise back blows. The blockage dislodged, and my brother gasped for air. As he cried in Una's arms, the room filled with stunned neighbors. "What did you do to him?" my mother screamed. "Mom, she saved him," I shouted, but she cut me off. Classic pattern, playing hero to cover her sickness. The family glared at Una, who tried to explain, but my mother's words cut like knives. "You're sick, Una, twisted in the head." Neighbors backed my mother, muttering about how reform school had clearly failed. Una shrank under their stares and fled to her room, her sobs echoing through the walls. That night, the family held what felt like a trial. Una sat in the center of the living room as they discussed her dangerous behavior in Korean. Tears streamed down her face, but she remained silent, unable to defend herself. "The bus leaves at 11 p.m., my mother said in English, her voice cold. They acted as if sending a crying teenage girl onto a late-night bus to a group home was some noble act. My dog Bruno and I were the only ones who volunteered to go with her. Bruno, our German shepherd, was our dangerous dog privilege, as I jokingly called him. At 11 p.m., we walked through dark streets to the bus stop. Una broke the silence, speaking perfect Korean. "You were the only one who was kind to me," she said. My blood ran cold. She had understood every cruel word, every vicious joke. Switching to English, her voice small and broken, she said, "My mother knew I spoke Korean. She told me if I ever let it slip, she'd have me locked away forever." Una shrank further, then said, "I need you to know what really happened to my sister." Her words froze me. When Una was 14, she and her baby sister, Aki, stayed with my mother while her parents were away. My mother encouraged Una to go to the movies. When Una returned, she found my mother holding a pillow over Aki's face. Before Una could act, my mother called her parents, claiming Una had attacked Aki. Then Una revealed the motive. Aki was set to inherit a large trust fund from my grandmother. If Aki died, the money would go to my mother, the eldest daughter. I fought back tears as the bus arrived. Una stood on shaky legs and said, "There's a blue paper crane on your desk. Inside is a recording of your mother threatening me in Korean last night. She needs money again." Her final warning hit like a blow. "Your brother isn't safe. Neither are you." The bus pulled away with Una. I stood frozen at the empty stop with Bruno, my hands trembling as I processed that my mother had tried to kill a baby. My phone buzzed, my mother texting, "Where are you? It's almost midnight." I drafted and deleted 5 responses before sending a vague reply. I knew I was walking back to face a calculating predator. When I got home, my mother greeted me with a smile that felt predatory. My father met me at the door, worried about the late hour, while my mother hovered, asking why it took so long. I mumbled about traffic, avoiding her piercing gaze. In my room, my hands shook as I opened my desk drawer to find the blue paper crane, just as Una promised. It felt heavier than it should. Inside was a USB drive with Korean writing. My laptop took forever to boot as I listened for footsteps. The audio revealed my mother, speaking in Korean, threatening to lock Una in a place where screaming is expected if she admitted to understanding the language. Another clip had her saying that if Una had spoken that night, she'd have ended up where no one would believe her cries. Footsteps on the stairs made me hide the USB in my phone case just as my mother appeared, asking why I was still awake. Her eyes scanned the room, landing on the paper crane pieces. "Yuna was so obsessed with origami," she said, probing to see if I'd found anything. I forced a laugh, saying Yuna was odd, and she left. After she was gone, I uploaded the audio to 3 cloud services and emailed it to a draft folder for safekeeping. The upload froze at 3% when the Wi-Fi cut out. My baby brother's cries jolted me. Peering through the crack in my door, I saw my mother in the nursery, holding him in the same position Yuna described with Aki. At breakfast, my father praised my mother for handling the Yuna situation so well, oblivious to her true nature. She accepted the praise, watching my reaction. Old family photos showed her holding baby Aki, her smile cold, her hands oddly positioned. The photo was dated a week before the incident. My mother suggested therapy for me, claiming I looked stressed, a clear attempt to discredit me. At school, I couldn't focus, checking my phone for updates on my brother. My teacher noticed and sent a note home about my behavioral changes. My mother called the school counselor, painting me as paranoid from living with a dangerous cousin. I researched infant CPR and cleared my browser history on the school library computer. The librarian mentioned my mother had called to check on my internet use. Public records revealed my grandmother's trust fund, with a quote from my mother about its unfair distribution. My friend Maya's mother, a social worker, noted my mother's frequent visits to check on my brother during lunch breaks, odd for a working parent. The visits aligned with times when regular staff were absent, leaving substitutes unaware of routines. I checked visitor logs and learned from our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, that my mother had asked her to watch Aki years ago but abruptly canceled, claiming family was handling it. The timeline matched Yuna's story. My mother volunteered for an overnight daycare fundraiser, so I texted my father to take my brother to his parents instead. He questioned why, and I planted the idea that my mother was overwhelmed and needed a break. She later confronted me in the kitchen, slicing an apple with deliberate precision, warning me not to believe manipulative people like Yuna. I began documenting everything in a hidden journal behind old textbooks. Maya showed me a text from her mother about my mother's inquiries into SIDS at the daycare fundraiser. When my mother suggested I babysit so my parents could have a date night, I arranged for my grandmother to help, thwarting her plan. Her brief flash of anger confirmed her intentions. I found her texts rearranging schedules to be alone with my brother. I created a fake math homework folder to hide evidence. An anonymous call to CPS yielded no action without concrete proof of harm. Mrs. Chen became an ally, recalling my mother's unease around babies. Late-night searches revealed my mother's sister had blocked her on social media 2 years earlier, aligning with Yuna's reform school timeline. I contacted Yuna's brother through her mother's Facebook, and he confirmed Yuna had told him I was kind. My father noticed my comments about my mother's sacrifice in taking Yuna in and asked why I seemed distant. My mother watched us with calculating eyes. My brother's first birthday loomed like a ticking clock. My mother pushed for a small, intimate party, breaking our tradition of big celebrations. I convinced my grandmother to visit, framing it as my mother needing support. My mother's forced enthusiasm hid her panic. Her lies unraveled as relatives compared her conflicting stories about why they shouldn't attend, claiming my father was sick, the baby was ill, or the house had mold. The audio timestamps exposed her desperation. Yuna's brother shared a text from Yuna, revealing my mother's false concern for Aki mirrored her behavior with my brother. Maya's mother monitored the daycare situation, proving true friends don't abandon you in chaos. My father questioned my mother's erratic behavior about the party. A seed of doubt finally planted. I held off playing the audio, needing more evidence to overcome his denial. At Sunday dinner, my mother muddled the timeline of Yuna's departure, but my father caught her inconsistency. Mrs. Chen recalled my mother's nervous behavior the day Aki was harmed, leaving abruptly when Chen returned early. Yuna's mother confirmed via video call that my mother was alone with Aki multiple times before the incident, always when the parents were away. I rallied the family for the birthday party, framing it as a surprise for my hardworking mother. Her response betrayed that she knew I was onto her. My father apologized for the family drama, mentioning my mother's nightmares about someone taking the baby, a clear projection of her guilt. Her attempts to isolate us made her look unstable. Yuna's mother revealed my mother had inquired about Aki's trust fund days before the incident, confirming the financial motive. I ensured my brother was never alone with her, coordinating with my father, grandparents, and Maya's mother. My mother noticed but couldn't object without exposing herself 3 days before the party. My mother planned to take my brother for a special photo shoot. My father called the photographer, who didn't exist. I suggested a family photo shoot instead, forcing her to agree or look suspicious. The family group chat buzzed with excitement, subtly exposing her lies. Yuna's mother shared a disturbing memory. My mother had visited Aki just before the incident, offering to help. My mother retreated to her room with a migraine as the house filled with family, a tactical retreat at dinner. She suggested taking my brother to her room to avoid the noise. My grandmother insisted he stay in sight, noting my mother's odd behavior during my childhood. My father confronted her reluctance to let his mother help. I sent the audio to Yuna's mother from the bathroom, and she immediately contacted a lawyer. Mrs. Chen's testimony about my mother's nervous behavior carried weight. My father's world shattered as he heard the audio, my mother's voice threatening Yuna's institutionalization. The family agreed my brother couldn't be alone with her, but legal options were limited without a committed crime dot in the kitchen. My mother prepared a bottle for my brother, but the liquid looked off. A standoff ensued as she realized everyone knew. She accused me of turning the family against her, her mask fully off. My father stepped between us as she grew erratic. I grabbed my brother and ran to Mrs. Chen's house, my mother's screams echoing behind me. Police arrived to find my mother barricaded in her room, my father bleeding from defensive wounds. Her erratic behavior led to a mandated psychological evaluation. Yuna's parents arrived with a family lawyer, and Yuna's testimony via video call detailed my mother's abuse. I faced a choice: protect my brother by exposing everything, destroying the family, or stay silent and risk his life. I chose his safety, handing over all evidence despite my father's tears. My mother was labeled a danger, her manipulations exposed. She tried to sway me through a jail call, but I changed my number and started therapy. The victory was bittersweet, a mix of pain and relief. 6 months later, at my brother's second birthday, he took his first steps, surrounded by both sides of the family, united at last. Yuna, now healthier and back with her parents, held him as he toddled toward me. Our shared trauma forged an unbreakable bond. My father, aged by grief, installed security cameras and attended single-parent support groups. Mrs. Chen became our rock, her sharp memory exposing my mother's lies. My grandmother moved in to help, grappling with her daughter's crimes. The legal case was airtight, with audio, testimonies, and a pattern of behavior. My mother's lawyer pleaded mental illness, but her calculated actions undermined the defense. In court, Yuna's testimony about the abuse she endured silenced the room. My mother's internet history revealed months of research into infant deaths. My testimony laid out her manipulation, backed by screenshots and chat logs. Her parents left the courtroom, unable to face her shame. Life moved forward. My brother learned to run, his first word Dada, his second safe. Therapy helped me process survivor's guilt. Why was I spared while Yuna suffered? My grades improved as I channeled fear into focus. Maya remained my anchor, her mother a steadfast protector. Yuna and I texted regularly, sharing healing milestones. At my brother's second birthday, the family celebrated our survival, the house filled with love my mother had tried to suppress. The blue paper crane, refolded, sat on my desk, a reminder that truth, however painful, protects the vulnerable from monsters.